now. Okay, so we're recording now, guys. So I'm gonna minimize this. Hopefully that shouldn't choke things much, but let's see. Yeah, it's giving a really bad frame rate. You can see just below 20. It wasn't like that. I think it's all the software open. Okay. Pretty much this is the asset already done. The only thing left to do is these two sections here, which is gonna turn into an actual simple asset. So if I show you here the Alid version, you can see that the textures are done. Okay, you don't have to keep it like that, so you can get a different frame rate. The main texture that I did, and I think I mentioned to you last week, it's all done, it's all up and running. But the customization of the actual asset, then I didn't. I think you can hardly see this, so I kept it like that. But I might have to fix it somehow. But now I managed to get these two assets pretty much done, these two textures sorted. I got the texture for this as well, so this is a bit of repetition. What I have to do is go for every single one of them and just start doing this kind of stuff. So I'll break down the repetition here and there, and then should be fine. See, you can see repetition here, right? It's not really noticeable at the moment because of the shadows are not 100%, but once it's lit and bounce light and all that, you should start seeing the repetition, so that's something you need to bear in mind. So pretty much from this section, what I did was I created one texture that comes out like this, which is quite, rustic and stuff, and you have all the things and the leakage, but I left the leakage there, but you cannot see it much. But here it proved quite nice because it had those sort of things leaking down. The way as well, I rearranged the UV so it will go down this way and then go down this way as well. This one here, I'll show you what I did with the material, but this one I created, I exported the same version of this, but without any rust in this. And then what I did was I added this little speckle thing because based on the reference, this section here is not the same material as this one on the back. This is a bit more like metallic. So I kept this to fake a little bit of that sort of like metallic paint that you have when you have in a car. This is not the right solution for that, but I'm not gonna create. I know how to create a metallic sort of car paint material, but I'm not gonna create that. So I said to myself, you know what? I'm just gonna do it like that and see if it works. And it was fine. So if you see when it's lit, you can see that they have that metallic look, and you can see it here. You can see those little speckles here happening here and there. You might not be able to see it, but once you face the camera here, you can see them there, and it's sort of fake that sort of. You see in the reflection here, it's sort of fake that sort of metallic look. And I think based on the reference, it does show that it's a little bit more metallic. So I kept this and I tweaked because the material that I have, the matte material is quite open. And what happened is it had the ability to actually make things metallic or non-metallic by having like a little control that multiplied by 0, the metallic section. But you can see here there's plenty of detail now here. I just tweaked the material a little bit better. Last week I created a little bit of a coming out here, this sort of rust and layers and bumps and stuff like that to make it look a bit more realistic. I applied the same material to this, but I tweaked it a little bit because it has a little bit of tinting things, so I can change the material, the roughness and all that. Here you can see that this is it has already all the leakage and things like that. So this is where I am with this material, with this asset at the moment. It's pretty much done now. I don't have to do anything to this apart from this section. Okay, and this section which is gonna texture, then this part here is gonna texture. But the rest is all done, and all the pipes are done. Pretty much the asset is all done apart from these guys in here. Okay, so I will sort this out soon. The same material, it's going to be the same principle. This is pretty straightforward, and this is the one that has this stuff different. I have another solution because I'm going to be using a lot of things. So I'm going to create a procedural system and really that place them for me. And all this connected, there's loads of buttons and things like that. So I'm going to create a library that can actually procedurally put in there, so I don't have to build them from scratch. All I have to do is just click one button and it will take everything up for me automatically. Hopefully that's what I have to do. Yeah, so the next asset to texture is this asset that is going to texture the one just got simple material. I'm just going to texture it. So this is what it is at the moment. So you can see that because this is using the two-layer system, the 2UV system that I talked to you about, is that you can actually come here, and zoom in, and you can see that there is plenty of detail. And even when you zoom in very close, you can still see a lot of detail, and that's because it's using two UV set, one UV set that is connected with a tileable material that I use up in design, and then the other one is a UV set that allows me to blend between a generic sort of set together, ambient occlusion, and a normal map that sort of take care of this squaring thing. So you can see that this looks quite square, but because this one hasn't got any normal map at the moment, but these ones, they already have the stuff baked in, so they lose that square look in majority because they have something baked in already. So, for example, this here, this section here, this is quite square, but you can see it looks quite round because it has already a normal map baked from Software Painter. So this is a two-step process, and I'll show you what I did was I took all these elements are separately, that developed separately. So these have two slots. So one is for material medium and one in the back. So the mid section is this and the back section is this. This is something that I did this way so I can actually divide the whole asset, because it's too big, in three sections. Back section, mid section, we cover this section, this, and this little bit here. And then the front section that covers all this stuff. And the reason why I decided to do this is just because I started playing around with the UVs, and I said, well, when I saw that all the elements together as a single asset for baking Substance Painter, I made sure that the checkerboard in all of them was quite even when I was doing the UVs in Maya. So I know that if this one got the checkerboard with the UVs, sort of the checkerboard too big and then one small, it means that this one's taking too much space in comparison with it. So I had to take some of this stuff and then add it to this guy to make him bigger, and then until I sort of came across like a roughly in terms of area that covers, and that allowed that process came out. The result of that was that I would have three materials: one for this section for this thing back, including the hatch; medium, which is the medium section, which is this section here with this, and this bit here. You can see that they have the same material. And as well, all one here that has a single sort of unit, which is all this, okay, plus this section here and the pins and stuff. So that came out across as this. So I put a little bit of metallic in this texture, so you can see that it has that sort of metallic look, because if you see the references, it does have that metallic look, because it's a different material. So I'm not sure if this guy is metallic, but it doesn't matter. All I have to do is go into Maya, create a different material slot for this, and we create a different material slot for a new material, and that material kill the metallic and look similar to this one. But I'll let that for now, see how it goes. So, having said that, so if you see this section, you can see that the whole let me kill those effects. Yeah. So you can see here that this has this, you've got a tileable material which is this, but then and this, but you can see that they do have a little bit of cohesive sort of extra detail. Like for example, these leaks go into this direction, this leaks go into this direction, this goes down, there's rust in the corners, there is a little bit of leak here happening with rust, and that's something that I cannot do on a tileable material, because the tileable material doesn't know about these connections. There is a little bit of an ambient occlusion happening in all these sections here, okay, and you can certify this. I'm going to open the material here. I'm just going to open the window, and so I can show you the effect. Hopefully that should show here in this section. So it does have an ambient occlusion. So if I tweak the ambient occlusion there, it doesn't do it. Let me see if here does it. I think here it will do it. You can see that. This section here, let's see. You can see here, this is an ambient occlusion that I can actually tweak to make the thing more darker and brighter, but it does respond to the actual, like a normal ambient occlusion, this thing will get darker here. Let's see if it happens here. Yeah, you can see it here. Look, there is something here. There is an ambient occlusion now. People put it in negative so you can see it. So put it back to where it was. And that comes from an actual, the X-ray UV set. Just remember that these acids have two UV sets. One UV set which is the tileable. Sorry, this UV set is the one that you're going to use for texturing substance painting the mask. And another one that is a tileable. And then the third one which is just for the light mask. Okay. So what you do is you take, I took the whole thing out as a low res, high res, and then I imported in Substance Painter, and then I did a bake, and this is pretty much what I have. You can see here, this is the bake, okay? And for this one, how you see all the materials I have. This asset should have in Unreal should have 5 materials. You see one for the back, one for the front, one from the back, from the the middle this, and then the metal lock, which is this one. I put it like that because you know, and then the front panel, which I haven't textured, which is this section. So the front panel here, in this case, when I texture this, I'm going to actually texture it in Substance Painter directly. I don't have to do the masking because I might not do it, I don't know, but the masking here, I think, is not necessarily going to help me because I think this area is quite small. So I think it's, you can see here that this is the area just for those for that section in the front. So, and I think this section here has some of this you can't see now, but this has this area here. So pretty much what you do is you just paint the mask. I established that blue would be the blending of the rust, and then I paint all the things, whatever I think they are, and I just have a very smart material that you can just drag and drop here, and I have the scratches. Some of them have scratches painted, some of them I don't. But I have the ability to have 3 channels, red, green, and blue, that I can actually use to make my model a bit more accurate. Okay, so you can see here, for example, that this guy here has a leakage in this specific area, and that's because I painted them deliberately, so I can actually sort of mimic the leak or rust coming out from these pins in here, this sort of connectors that are in the reference. So I just eyeball them and paint in there, so I don't have to use. I did use some. Let me bump this up a little bit, the black points. So you can see a little bit. You can see here, it's a little bit washed out, but you can see the shadows now. And you can see that I have leaks happening here in a specific area here, this one's there. And that is what sells the thing, because if you just leave it with a tileable material, you don't put that little sort of, you see here, see this makes sense, this stuff here, there. And that, they were deliberately done this way, just eyeball them, to just, in the material here, to just blend stuff. So this was grime, and I got some of them that are like grime, some of them are like the blue section, which is rust. And yeah, and then once you put it all together, you can see the leakage and all that. So this one will give me as well a ambient occlusion pass here. So you put here ambient occlusion. You can see, look, this is an ambient occlusion that was baked, and because it was baked all together, now this thing will cast a shadow between these two because they now understand each other, because they know that this is going to be an ambient occlusion from this together with this, and the same with here, the same with this. And if you don't put that, it does you start seeing that when you look at something, that stuff is okay, bright, and it keeps being bright all the way through. So because the ambient occlusion that you get from the tileable doesn't understand this connectivity, so that's why it's quite important that if you have 2 UV set, you will be able to get something that is a bit more realistic, because you will be able to actually have connection, 3D connection between them. So I did that this way, okay, and this that's what I done for all of them. That's why they don't look like this. What helps you is to avoid that sort of look that is like floaty in the air because it's not really grounding. If I want to take any even further, I can actually put a floor in here, a floor, and then this will start getting dark exactly. So I can literally, if I wanted to, I can go here and then import in with my high res, not my low res, but with my high res, I will import perhaps this floor, this metal bar, and that will give me casting shadows here if I want to. In fact, I want to try to do it if it works, because I already did it with something and it makes a big difference. I want to show you in a second. So this here, if I import this in my high res, then I will start seeing that this section here gets darker because it was something close to it, and the same here, it will start getting darker here. So it could potentially help a lot. So I'm gonna try to get an over that next time. I couldn't put a pipe because it's ridiculous, the amount of pipe that there, that's ridiculous, and I would not. I could if I want to export these ones, bring them in, and then put them as a high res, and that will get the shadows as well here if I want to. But I think with the ambient occlusion from the post-processing volume, I think that would do. And yeah, so that's pretty much how I did this. For the pipes, I did something similar. But for the pipes, I already did the baking, but I haven't painted on the materials. But here is an issue here. You know what that is. This is something missing here. I have to find out what it is. Maybe it's a back face or something. You can see all of them are good, some of them are missing. But that's alright, nothing anybody can see. Yeah, so once you have this, then you are in a, you start making things look a bit nicer. You can see that this dark bit here is caused because of that. Okay, and talking about the thing, just to finalize it, talking about the thing that this, if I bring a plate, or it doesn't have to be a plate, I can put an actual piece of geometry in Unreal, sorry, in Maya, just to do that. So what I did, for example, I'm going to go here and add the material. I'm going to save this, close this. Okay. Because, for example, one thing that I did in order to get the pipes, because you see the pipes in Unreal, they're just like this pieces, you see. So in order to get a true ambient occlusion, what I did was this. So what I did was I went into Maya, and this is something you should try, guys, to do that. I did this. So okay. You can see here what I did was is for every piece I put a sort of so what I did was I took for every single piece, this is a low res, the green ones are the low res, so low res, low res, low res. And what I done is I took from the pipe, which is the one that is always going to be connecting, I put one piece high res in every single one of them, and then I combine them. So once you do this, not necessarily overlapping, but when you put something to this, when you do the ambient occlusion, this will bake with a little bit of a shadow here, the low res, because it's looking at something high res to bake, and then you will get a little bit of a nice gradation. So when you put the connection in Unreal, you will have a little bit of a dark bit, darker there. You can see there's a little bit of a dark tint in there, and that's because it is being done that way. So same here. I think the material will allow me to see. The material will allow me to demonstrate that. Okay, let me see. I think if you can see here that this, look at these corners here, this section here, this section here. You can see that when I tweak this, you can see how it gets tight. Look at the ambient occlusion there, how it gets tight. Yeah. Very subtle, but it does make it. It does add up once you start putting things together. And that will give me this really nice shadow as well here around. These shadows here are caused because of the ambient occlusion. So what you do is pretty much you take all your low res, which is all the green ones that I have here, all the low res ones, but then I create an extra high that I name it as, I combine it with this one here. You can see this is the high, you see? And then I combine it with this high, so this is for just casting the actual shadows in here. Don't rename it individually because it would be too much. So and as well, I did this as well here. Look, I put this one here just for me to cast a little bit of ambient occlusion there. So when I put them in Unreal here, because they are going to have something there, they have a little bit of a shadow already baked in the ambient occlusion. So what you have to do is just do that, import them, and just do the baking. And if you see here the ambient occlusion, you can see they have a little bit of a shadow there. Without that, you will not be able to get these shadows in here, this ambient occlusion, because it's already taking in consideration that there is something like this. This one here have a little shadow there. This one has it. This one has it as well, because there is something that was there originally with the high ref to create this shadow. This one here, don't touch it because the white touching like a dark line. And if you have to move things around a little bit inside Unreal, then you will see the dark bit. So what you have to do is just put them close enough, and you can tweak the settings in the bake, and then improve how dark they are if you want to. But for this, for me, that's okay. So, and then again, the same principle. You come here, you paint the material, you paint the rust, you paint where you want the rust for the things, and then just import it. This is one single texture for all of them, for all of them. So one single UV set is for all of them. So I will import one texture for all this and one texture for the tile one. That's it. And this is exactly the same texture of the other one. It's just that I put controls in the material to tint the color, to make it a little bit darker, brighter, things like that. And yeah, and that's pretty much how you do this. So far, this is what it is at the moment. And I think I'm gonna put this back to the way it was. So yeah, and this is the final at the moment. So yeah, that's how it is at the moment. So next phase to do these two things, which is pretty simple, which is the same principle. I import these two high red, do a baking, blah blah. I can probably put a sort of piece of plane as well, just to get some shadows happening here and the same here, and it does it. It just voila, it works. Yeah, I think this is it. Yeah, I think this is all I want to show you, and then I'm gonna go into the actual material creation process. Okay. Anybody got any questions about it? Anything about this project that you want to know? That you want me to repeat or explain differently? No, everybody okay then? Yeah. Can you hear me, guys? Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. Good. I'm talking my ass off here by myself for the last 20 minutes. So. Okay. So right. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna continue what we did last week. So I'm gonna do is I'm going to let me open some of the files I can have. Here, I think here, this is the master material that we were working on last week. This is where we left it last week. We did so this is where we left it off. I think last time it was this. Okay, I think we put something here just to sort of test the thing, and then we can put it back to the way it was, like this. Or we can just leave it so we can actually test it. And then, yeah. So this is what it is at the moment. Okay. So, yeah. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna continue a little bit and add a bit more functionality. So let's have a look what we left last week. Last week we left at this stage, which is we added the capability of tiling. We added the capability of offsetting the UVs, and we added the capability of rotating the UVs. This is a little bit technical for the picture solve, because this stuff here, normally there is an issue when it comes to the geometry. If you flip things around, you start seeing the UVs upside down instead of inside, going in instead of going out, stuff like that. So there are ways to fix that, and I'll find out how to do that. I haven't implemented in my actual shed, so I'll put it here. But anyway, so we have the ability to now the base color, PSM or RMO and normal, and then we have here the ability as well to tweak the the actual roughness. I think we put contrast as well here. So what we're going to do, we're going to put an extra control here to actually change, just a multiplier to change the intensity. So this one will allow us to change the contrast. This one will allow us to clip, to remap things to go from 0 to 1 or from 0 to 0.5. So what it does, if you put here two different numbers, let's say you put here 0.1 and then 0.2, and then the input's going to 0.5, it's going to give us 0.2 because that's the maximum you can go. So it's just a way to clip things so you can actually as well, in the minimum 0 to 1, to default from 1 to 0 to 1. So we're going to put an extra here that we can actually multiply by a number, so we can actually reduce up and down the roughness. Okay. And then here we have the ability to multiply the intensity of the color by a number. Then we will be able to tint it, and then overlay that tint on top using the Photoshop blending mode, which we talked about last video. Remember, we put that in 0.5 because 0.5 doesn't affect anything here. It's the 50% gray, doesn't affect the actual color. And then this one allows it to learn mix between the tinted one and non-tinted one based on the number. Okay, the moment by default is 0, which means that is mapped to A, and then it's gonna come out something that is not tinted. Then here we have the ability to change the hue, and then we're gonna put an extra control here that allows us to actually desaturate and saturate things. Okay, so we can, if you see that color you brought already a texture, say, well, actually I changed the color, but I just don't like the saturation; it's too saturated. Instead of going back and trying to tweak it, just put here something to desaturate it. You can touch it like a tiny touch, and then you can desaturate things. This is what we're gonna do now, okay? And then we're gonna continue with the rest, and we're gonna tweak the normals. We're gonna see if we can tweak ambient occlusion. We can tweak as well italic if you have the ability to do that. Just remember that I want you to start using your materials to take it a little bit further than just doing these three connections and that's it. Because the reason, like I said here, the reason I can only use one texture for all these sets because I have the ability to actually tweak it. So I was able to tweak this, and tweak this one, and this one. But this one, because it was too string, I had to actually create a new one because based on the reference, it had the same characteristics of this, but it didn't have that much rust. So what I did was I pretty much took out all the rust, this rust here, and then I made a little bit more metallic, a little bit more subtle. We had a little bit of patina on top, so it doesn't have too much. I kept the same normal, but and then because I have a setting here that allows me to tweak the intensity of the normal, then I tweak it to a very tiny amount. So there's a little bit of detail, and it doesn't. I don't have to go and create a fresh scene for this or fresh texture. I have to reuse what I have, and that was well make the scene more efficient. Okay, so let's put here the intensity for the roughness. Okay, so we're going to do it. We're going to just multiply. So we press N, click here. Recording. Let's do the recording. So what we're going to do, we're going to connect a number to this to the roughness. Remember that my convention is roughness, metallic, AO. For you, it could be different, so you have to bear that in mind. So I'm going to connect this in A. Doesn't matter. Multiplication doesn't matter. And then I'm going to press 1, and then connect, and then convert to parameter. Or I can do S click, and we talked about last week, which is already a parameter. So this we're going to call it, I don't know, roughness intensity multiplier. Okay, and then we're going to give it a default of 1. We don't want to put 0 because if we multiply by 0, we kill the mind who made everything like a mirror. So we put this guy in B, and then we connect this one here. So now we have an extra control here. And then this one, again, we have to put it into this group that we created. We created a group here called roughness tweaks. And then here, I think we gave him this one 0. But let's keep this one well the same 0. So it's either one of those two on the top. So now I'm going to save this, and then let's go and check on the instance and see what it looks like. Okay. We already have something here in place on the material that we created. So let's see this one in the box like that helps. Okay. It helps you to this angle like this. Okay. So now let's have a look at the roughness tool. So it's here, roughness intensity multiplier. Let's see if I multiply by higher than 1. Okay, it makes everything even more rough. If we multiply by something below 1, can start getting a little bit shiny. And there's a point that's going to be 0 and it turns into a mirror pretty much. Because roughness when it's towards 0, it looks shiny and very mirror-like. Okay, so you have a little bit of ability to tweak this a little bit more. And as well, I can probably make it, like I say, a little bit shinier. I can make things a bit more contrasty. I can actually say, well, I want the minimum not to be 0, but a little bit higher, so I can increase it, and then you see it clips everything. And as well, at the same time, I can make things a little bit less rough, or stuff that is rough already, I can make it less rough and it will turn to actually rough. Okay. So you have the ability to do all these things now, okay, by just tweaking these controls, okay. So we put all of them to default, and then you can see that it doesn't affect anything. So it's pretty much outputting here in the viewport the roughness as it comes. But with this, you have the ability to actually tweak it before you output it to the actual shading here, the material attribute, okay. So we have this ability. So now let's add the ability of what we took about here about desaturating things, just in case. So I believe it's called saturate, desaturation. Okay, color. You can see the saturation. You can put the color here. So I think this saturation is. Yeah, I think. Oh, okay, I think this one here, the saturation, what it does is outputs. Oh, okay, so this one, what you can do is connect it here, okay? And then here the fraction, the saturation is the amount that you want to desaturate. I think you have to put, it doesn't say anything here actually. I believe put the, let's see, what's the default? Let's see. I believe the default is, let's put here a number. You see, I think the default is desaturate everything. I think if you connect, let's say 0 here. Okay, 0, no saturation. Okay. 1, desaturation. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. So what we do is we want to put this guy to 0 as default. Okay, and then this guy we're gonna press right click, and then we're just gonna click convert to parameter, and we're gonna name it. And this we're gonna call base color. Because it's gonna be this as it is, we're gonna call desaturation. Okay. Okay. So here the good thing about this is something if you want to have it, because you can always come here to the tinting and increase it. And here in the color you can always change the hue saturation here, more saturation. But here you will have an extra control that only applies to the saturation. Because here you can see that it tells you that it does some sort of conversion. It does alert the dot input of the luminance factor, so it takes the luminance factor. And this is like the equation. You can see it's alert of the input multiplied by the luminance factor multiplied by the fraction of this fraction here. So this is an extra control if you want it. You don't have to make it, but I'm going to keep it there. So this one is the base color tweaks. So I'm going to put it into the group base color tweaks. Okay. And what was the last one we did? That was base color 3. Let's put this one to 4. We can put it right below that. Okay. So now we apply, we save. We're now in the material instance, which you can see in the changes. Okay. Okay, you can see here that the color tweaks has the ability now to saturate things. And now you can actually, if you go higher than 1, or even, actually if you go below 1, it makes things more saturated. So there is ability to avoid that. So you can saturate, desaturate. If you go higher than 1, desaturate it completely. Below 0, it makes things more saturated. Okay, so you have to be tweaking this with care, because I think you might mess up the colors drastically. But just the ability to have that if you want. You see a color is a tiny touch too. Instead you're trying to find the right color, you can always click here and then introduce a little bit of desaturation, and then you might be able to hit the spot that you want. Okay. So we have this, we have done. I think color is pretty much done, apart from something that we might be able to enable later. Okay. So now, one thing that I would like to add to this material is the ability to have in this channel an opacity mask. Normally you put an opacity mask in the base color. So we need to have the ability to actually use that if we want to. Okay. But at the moment, if you look at this guy here hasn't got the opacity enabled, and that's because you had to select this, and then here you have to change the blending mode to mask, okay? And now you will have the opacity mask. The opacity mask is when you want to use something that is just black or white, and you can just make things completely or completely invisible. There is no in between like glass. That would be a different sort of blending mode. I think for glass would be, I think it's translucent or something like that. I think it's translucent, and then you will have a translucency effect here. You can actually use it. This is for translucency. This one is for when you're doing glass, and this is when you're just actually using things. Like for example, that's the material thing that I use when I put, for example, this green. It's either solid or sorry, it's either invisible or visible. It's either 100% opacity or 0% opacity. Okay? So now that we have this, we have the ability to connect something to this, but we can just connect the opacity directly and say, okay, I want this, okay, like that, and then we connect it, and that's it. It works. But would it be cool to make the material the same sort of thing that we want to do, the same sort of principle of the material we want to do? So we have the ability to actually choose if we want to use it or not. And for that, we can actually put a little check that says, hey, do you want to actually use opacity? If you want to use opacity, sure. If you don't want to use opacity, fine, it's solid. It's up to you, okay? So what you have to do is, obviously, when you're doing your base color in whatever software you're using, you need to make sure that the alpha has a solid white, so everything is 100% opaque. And I think everybody does that, okay? But just in case, and just for the sake of learning this, let's try to see if we can actually do that little check. So this is a little bit more advanced topic, and this is just a little bit of what it's supposed to be like programming, but we're doing it here visually. So we had to actually do something that's called a switch parameter. Okay, so actually we can tell, hey, I want to have a parameter that appears in my UI here. I can actually say, hey, do you want to use this? Okay, and then once you say you want to use that, then you have the ability to actually connect have the opacity. Okay, like for instance, I'm gonna give you an example. I think, for example, I can do this here very easily. So the first thing we need to do is create the actual parameter, and in here is called a switch parameter. So we press tab and it's called switch parameter. It is a static switch parameter. You click this, and you can see that this has two entries: true or false. Okay. So we're gonna call this guy use opacity, and then we put a question mark. And if you want to make sure the user know what he's doing, is assuming that it's coming from the base color. This is nothing to do with, you don't have to put this in here, but it's a good indication that for the person who's using the material, say, oh, actually, I can actually put my opacity mask in the base color alpha. Okay. Okay, we can even go further and say from base alpha, from base color alpha, and that's it. So what we have to do is connect this guy here, okay, into the opacity mask. Okay, and what happens is this: you give an error because nothing connected. It says here, look, if you want something to be true, connect it here. If you want something to be false, connect it here. So if it's true, we want to use the opacity mask, then we have to connect the opacity mask here. So let's see what happens when we put two numbers in here. Okay. So if it's true, you want to make this guy true. Okay. It's gonna be 0%, which is black, which is translucent, or is invisible. And this one, when it's visible. Okay. Just to test this out. Then here, this is the ticking value, the default value. The moment is false. Okay. When this is unchecked, it means it's false, which means it's pumping 1, which means 1 here means that everything is 100% opaque. So what happened when I take this and I said it's true? When it's true, it's gonna read 0, and this should disappear. You see, it disappeared now. You see, it's not there. It's still there, but you cannot see it. And the reason, I think, if you put it here into, you see, it's there still. It's just that you cannot see it because we're telling A the default value of this guy is 0, which means it's false. Okay. So this is what we have to do. So we cannot do this. We cannot put um, a number here. We have to actually connect the alpha here. So what happens is this: I take the alpha from here, and then I connect it to here. Okay. So if this stuff is false, okay, if this stuff is false, it's gonna be using one, which means wanna use a positive? No, it's false. No, I don't want to, because the ticking of this will be when you tick this in the UI, and I'll show you in a second. When you tick this in the UI and you enable it, it reads. If you tick true, it will read this, which means yes, I want to use opacity. And in that case, let's read the opacity from the alpha channel. And you say, well, no, actually, I don't want to use opacity. Oh, okay, that's fine. It means that everything's opaque. And then let's read one, just solid. And when you compile this, this is what you get. I'm not sure you will see in the UI what happens. This is what happened here. So here, in the UI here, I have a tick here. I haven't put it into the right group yet. So you see, I say, okay, I'm gonna actually do a use opacity. By default, it's compiling. Say, okay, by default, this thing's unchecked, which means false, okay, which means it's reading one, which is solid, stuff solid. And you say, oh, okay, I'm gonna use the actual opacity from the mask. Oh, it's still solid because this texture has an alpha, and this alpha actually is solid. Okay, so that's what happened. So it doesn't work because it has 50% right here, but it doesn't make it because it's not translucent. So it's just solid, black or white. So if I wanna show you how this works, let me show you one second here how this works. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use one that has actually mapping. It's this one. So I'm gonna go and find this material. So I think I'm gonna go and select this. This one has alpha. So if I double click on this, you can see that this one has an alpha. Okay. So I'm gonna click here, I'm gonna copy it, and I'm just gonna paste it here. Okay, and now you can see that. The moment this thing has an alpha, okay, and because I told them, hey, use the alpha. Before it says, no, don't use the alpha, and then my logic said here because it's false. Remember, untick is false, which means use whatever you put here in false, and that said, hey, is one, which means everything is solid. This stuff doesn't have any alpha channel. And then when you tick true, then it will read the alpha from here. If this texture that you have here, whatever you connect, doesn't have an alpha, it will still be solid. Doesn't have an alpha with opacity, it will still be solid. But because we chosen here in the instance something that has an actual alpha, once we tick it, it actually reads. You see, so now we can see that it's reading the alpha. So now I have the ability to this material to actually use my opacity from the alpha channel. Okay? Does everybody understood that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So now let's move on with this. I'm gonna close this and I'm gonna leave this for now here because it's actually quite interesting. I said no, I don't want to use opacity because I just want to see stuff. Okay? And again, you can see that I can actually let's take this again. I'm gonna take this alpha. I'm gonna put in here so normal map. We'll type here. So that will be the normal map. You can see there. Here we'll put the RMO. Use the RMO. Okay. You can see that makes it look metallic, and then again, if I want to use that, it still works. You can see there is something that is metallic. That's how you can do like a grid thing, like a stuff in a. That's fine. Yeah. Okay. So again, let's do this so you can keep it solid. Okay. And again, because this is taking the materials, I can still have the ability to tweak things like multiply the intensity. I can make it look rougher. I can make it look shinier. Right? It's always, you see, you have to be quite careful how you tweak things. You have to always use the best you can with detection process has to be quite as accurate as possible. Okay, so now we have the ability to change this. This is opacity, you can see, and now I have the ability to tweak this. No problem now. So okay, so what can we do? We did something with roughness. We did stuff with color. Let's do what we can do with, let's say, normal. Okay, let's say that we can add normal to this, and then we can actually put a something that it just allows you to tweak the intensity of the normal. Okay, so let's do that. Let's go back into, I think about this. I'm gonna take this material here, and then here I'm gonna go and do that. Okay, and then we're gonna tweak this to here now, which is the material of the normal. Okay, so how do we tweak the normals? Okay, the normals. There are several ways to do it. I think the easiest way to do it is actually multiplying a number by the normal. Okay. Okay, and this is probably going to be one of the easiest ones to do. There is a little function I think you can do, but I think this is good because it will allow me to show you something and the way the normal maps work. And I think that's quite interesting. Okay, so if the first indication will say, okay, I want to make things stronger, then I just multiply by them, which is true. But you cannot multiply all the channels individually. You cannot multiply anything by the blue channel, guys. When you're tweaking normal maps, even in the past when I used to, before this nice software and stuff, when I used to make the a normal map stronger, what I had to do is you have to go into Photoshop, make a copy, overlay it, disconnect the blue channel, overlay on top, and then merge it again. The blue channel shouldn't be touched. Okay, because the blue channel is the one that sort of baked the, it's normally a 100% blue, so if you multiply it, then you make the whole thing looks a bit weird. So you only tweak this red and green. So what you have to do is actually multiply something to red and green and then add it to the actual blue again. And for that, we need to separate these three channels individually. Okay, and the way this works is that you have to mask it. You have to check a node that says, hey, I want to mask this stuff. Okay, so if I wanna start, I can say start previewing this. Okay? And this is for the moment because this is just nothing. It will start showing me just that. Okay, but let's say that you just want to multiply an intensity number by just using the red and the green. Okay, so we're only going to multiply a number to the red, the green, and then add the blue component at the end, and then pipe it to the output. Okay, and how do we do that? Okay, so let's press M, and then we know that we have to multiply. So we have to multiply something here with this, but we have to make sure that we have taken two channels at the same time. You can do it individually if you want to, but let's do it in one go because it's a nice node that you can actually do it. Okay, so the node is called mask. I think it's called. So press tab and say mask, and I think it's called component mask. That's a component mask. I believe that's the one. Yeah, component mask. Yeah. So this one here, you can tell them I can mask out two elements. I can keep all of them. I can only keep one. I can actually keep just the alpha. So I can actually output some. If I do this at the moment, I'm only outputting the alpha. Okay. So let's test it with. So what I can do is I can take this, okay, and mask out a simple channel. Let's test this here. So I'm gonna take this guy just temporarily because I know it has an alpha. And then I'm gonna press 3. No, I'm gonna press tab. I'm gonna press tab, and I'm gonna type texture coordinate. No, not texture coordinate. Texture sample. Okay, you know this one. So because I got a texture selected in the viewport, as soon as I do this, it will automatically assign it here. You can see the elephant thing I had it selected in here. So because I got selected, it automatically tells me, hey, you want to assign that. So again, just to test how this guy works, I'm gonna showcase. If I connect this guy here, okay, and I say I'm going to only output the red channel. So if you right click on this is only temporary, guys, so you can see. If I start previewing this now, you can see that look, it's only taking me the even though I got the RGB connected, I'm masking out only the red channel. So only the red channel is the one that's being output. So what happens if I take the blue channel? This is the blue channel. So sorry, the green channel. What happens if I take the blue channel? This is the blue channel. What happens if I take all of them? Then I got all of them. Okay. So what happens if I put the alpha? Because there's no alpha here. I have to actually connect it from here. You can see it's taking me the alpha, which is the black and white image. So with this node, I actually can break down a vector. Let's call it vector. This is RGBA, 4 vector, and 4 component. I can actually individually say which one I want. And remember that we're going to multiply the intensity by a number. Okay. So how do we do that? So we have to mask out 2 channels. So we have to tell them, hey, from this thing here, mask out red and green. Okay. So now I only got red, green, green. Okay. And then I'm going to multiply that red and green by a number. Okay. And then I press, for example, 1. And then if I put here 1 by default, and I start reviewing this guy, you can see that nothing happened. And look what happened when I put this to, I don't know, 5. I make it brighter because I'm masking out the red and the green with this. So if I take here just the blue as well, it makes everything completely bright because it's taking now the 3 channels. Okay. If I take alpha as well, I'm multiplying even the alpha. At the moment it doesn't understand that it's translucent because it doesn't understand and you cannot show in the viewpoint. Viewport is not going to be able to show only 3 channels. Anyway, so what I want to do is I want to mask out red and green, okay, from here. Okay, so we can now delete this. It's just to show how it works. So now when I mask out red and green and I multiply by 5, it gives me a red green. That's fine. Let me stop reviewing and start reviewing. For the moment, let's have a look. Start reviewing. Material expression component mask zero reviewing. Because it's a normal, it's not color. It's treated as normal. Anyway, so we know that this is what we have to do. We have to do this. Okay? So now we say, hey, whatever we're going to multiply by this guy, it's only going to be do with the green channel. Okay? And now we still got the blue channel to work in. So what we have to do, we have to use the node that we used last week. I think we used it, which is append, I believe, which is the one that we did here. But I append 2 numbers converted into an actual component of 2. I can do the same here. I can take this guy and append it with the blue. So I can say append, okay, append vector. You can see now this guy has 2 components. Now we need the 3rd component, which is the blue. Okay, and now let's take this guy back to 1. Okay, and we take this guy, we're going to right click, we're going to convert it into a parameter, and we're going to call this normal strength. Okay, by default is 1. If you multiply everything by 1, it doesn't do anything. So again, we took so I'm taking out the 2 channels from here, the red and the green. I multiply by a number, and then that component that is being multiplied, then I append it again to the 3rd component, which is the blue, and now I have again my original RGB. And then once I have that, all I have to do is connect this one into the normal. Okay. Again, let's create a group for this if we want to. I know that we don't have one, so this will be number 4. We say 4 normal. Oops, normal widths. Okay. And then let's give a priority of 0. Okay. And let's apply this, compile it, and see what this guy look like. Okay. Now let's change the material in here. Okay, let's change the material here. So I'm gonna find a different material that I have that is stylable. I know a metal here that is stylable, so I'm gonna change. I'll look at this one. There's this guy, which is. So I'm gonna copy this guy. I'm gonna paste it here. We're gonna take as well this guy, copy it, paste it. No, oops, not there. Paste it here, and then here, copy this guy. And we need to paste it here. So now I have this. This I did this in Soften design when I was just playing around with it and see what so I created. You know, I like this. Yeah, I'm gonna keep it. So I got this metal thing, and now this one has all this stuff. Again, this one will not work because this stuff doesn't have an alpha. This has an alpha or just solid white. So okay, so how about if I want to tweak the? I like it, but I think it's too much. Then we can just go here into normal tweaks. Okay, and I think this guy needs to actually let's move this guy. You see, we haven't assigned anything to this guy. Let's move this to the actual texture of texture thingy. So let's go here, and then let's assign this guy to yeah, to this one. We assign it to the group of texture input, and we give it let's give it a 0 so it goes all the way to the top again. Doesn't matter. I'm not 100% concerned how is it going to turn out in terms of like composition, so it's fine. So here you can see now it's all the way to the top that I can actually use it opacity. So I got these things done. That's not one. So here I say normal strength. Look what happened. One, nothing happened. Look what happened when I increase it. So now I have the ability to tweak, and if you take it too far, you mess it up. Okay. So, but now it says I like this, but it's too strong. Instead of me going back and creating a brand new texture, which is gonna load up your scene more, then you just go here and then tweak it down a little bit, and then make it a little bit more subtle. And then say, okay, I like it around here. And say it's too shiny, no problem. Let's go here into the contrast and the roughness multiplier. It's too shiny, so we have to make it higher, so we can make it a little bit rougher. So, and then perhaps tweak the contrast a little bit, get less contrast, and then there you go. So it's a metal that is there, still look a metal, but it's not as rough as it was before, shiny, and as well as not as intense as it was before. You can make it intenser, more intense, or you can just make it more subtle, like the one we did before. Okay, so now you have the ability to tweak all those things. Okay, and this is what we're trying to aim here. Now, I believe there is one node that you can actually use for let's go for just doing the normal. I think, but this is interesting because this is something that will allow you as well to understand what's happening. So this thing here, what it does, it just takes the component of red and green multiplied by number, and then those two components reconnect them back to the 3 channel, turn 3 channel, and then output it back. Okay, and that's all what it does. And I believe, let me see here, I think there is one, so we'll normalize normal plane angle noise to make things normal texture flat. I think it's this one actually. Flat and normal. This is the same. This is even easier. So what you have to do is just take this guy here directly, okay, and then here is a scalar, default 0. This one I have to put in 0, so it doesn't do anything. So we put this back to 0, we connect it here. Let's put it to normal. I did it so you know, guys, how this works. Now the default of this guy is 0, it means that it's not flat, it's just normal as it is. So we save this, and you should be able to get the same result. But I think this one would be a little bit different because now the normal strength needs to be renamed. So for example, normal strength is now, you see 0 is exactly what it was, and 1 is even the opposite, which is flatter. Because the normal, the name says look flatten. So when you increase it, you actually flatten the thing. Which before we were just doing it, increasing it by multiplying higher to make it stronger. So this one here is up to you. If you want to use this or this. It's just that I believe you want to use this one and continue with the same process that we had before. I think what you have to do here is, because this is from 0 to 1, you can just invert it 1 to 0. And I believe to do that you have to use, there must be an alpha. It's called component, not component, not component. Complement is normally using 1 minus. Oh yeah, one. Oh, there is 1 minus. 1 minus. Yeah, this is the one. So what you do is you take this guy, which is from 0 to 1, but then if you do the 1 minus, it will be from 1 to 0. So when you do this, okay, and then you put this one default to 1 now, because now we're doing the opposite. So the default will be 1, 1 minus 1 will be 0, which is the default. And we are in strength 1. So when we say this is a little bit of programming, a little bit more technical. In my implementation I have this, but this one is similar. So here you can see now that 0, when you put it to default, is the way it was. So normal strength, you can make it stronger, you can make it weaker, just to follow the same system that we have here. And all you have to do is use 1 minus, which is a complement. So what it is, if we put the default to 1, set default to 1, 1 minus 1, 0, which is nothing. If you put this one to 0, and you said 1 minus 0 is 1, then it's full on, flatten, which means you flatten the whole thing. Okay? So it's up to you. You can either do this, you keep the default 1, or this. I'm gonna keep this 2 here so you can see, and then you can come from there too. This one is exactly the same as this. Under the hood, this is what happens. You see? This is here just alert. Yeah, this is the function that comes with arrays. You can take the vector, this you see 0, 0, 1, and layer between them. This is another method. We could have done this as well. It takes a vector, and this is the normal, and this is the vector 0, 0, 1. Layer between the two based on the scalar, and then output it. But it doesn't make any difference for us. It's the same. Okay? As long as if you're using this system and you don't use this, you have to put this one at default to 0. Because, sorry, default to 1. I think. Yeah, default to 1. And then you just do this. Okay, it's a nice called normal strength. You can call it normal flatten, and then you can keep it as it was. You know that when it's 0, it's going to be 100% flatten. Okay, so let's keep this as it was. We keep it to 1. So again, we can just go and flatten it, and we can just go and do it opposite. I'm going to leave it like that so you can compare. So I'm going to take this, and again, I'm going to press C, and I'm going to call this normal widths. Okay. So now that we have this, now let's add a little bit more, an extra bit of functionality to this. Okay, and I think we are pretty much done. Metallic, I don't know if you want to tweak it, but let's put something in here if we want. I think normally you shouldn't play around with metallic. Metallic should come around as it is from your texturing, so you go a proper metallic sorted. Do you normally tweak your metallic, guys?
Sorry, what was that, Louis?
Oh man, nobody listening.
No, I was. I just didn't hear what the question.
the question is, do you normally guys tweak your metallic, guys?
Do we normally tweak our metallic in Unreal?
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't. No.
Yeah, not really.
No, I don't.
I usually-
don't think that's done.
I usually don't as well, but but probably it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually the metallic is all done in substance.
That's right.
painter.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if you want to tweak things, you can always tweak it a little bit, and here and there. And I think in my materials here, I have the ability to tweak it, and I think I'm gonna tweak it because I have things that if I bring a texture, then I can actually say multiply the metallic by 0, and then I'll turn it into plastic or something if I want to use a texture. But it's just, and I think I haven't come across any for that. So, having said that, this is quite important now what I'm going to do, guys. I think it's 10, 15, another 15 minutes this, because what I want to do is, here is the ability for you to have a feature in your material to use the stuff that I just showed you, the 2UV stuff, 2UV system. So we know that this guy has roughness, metallic. We're going to leave metallic as it is, and then ambient occlusion. Okay, ambient occlusion is quite interesting because the moment the only ambient occlusion we're introducing here is the ambient occlusion that comes from the actual tileable material, which normally is according to my setup is very subtle. You can see this metallic, this ambient occlusion is very, very subtle, so you're not going to be able to get much. Okay, but if you have something that is a bit more together, then you will be able to get something a bit more interesting. Okay, so we're going to test that in a second. So 2UV set, very important. Okay, how are we going to tweak that? Okay, let's see. I haven't done any of this material, but let's tweak it. Okay, we need to just remember that by default this guy says, hey, this stuff here is UV coordinate text 0, which means the only UV coordinate one. So if you want to have here an extra one, you have to copy and paste this, and then this guy here, you tell them, hey, this guy is coordinate 1. You can see 0, 1. So if you want to switch between these two, the name implies it, you have to create a switch. A switch that tells them, hey, do you want to switch the UVs? So you need to come up with some sort of convention for what you do. Okay, and this is how I did it with my project. So if I go back here and I show you something here, for example, let's say this. Okay. I'm gonna go here low, and I'm gonna just show this. Go low here. Let's check out the UVs for this. The UV for this are like this way. So I go 2 UVs. This is the tileable UVs. You can see they're overlapping. Doesn't matter because they're tileable. And then here I have an extra UV map. So I'll go UV map, which is the one for the ambient occlusion lake, and this is the UV set. Now, I decided that I will always put my substance painter ambient occlusion baking mask, however you want to call it, in the UV 0. And I will always put my tileable on UV 1. And the reason I did that, and not all the way around, is because when you import something in substance, it automatically, if you want to use the 0 to 1 space, you have to put your UVs in the UV 0. This thing has an extra UV, it just is being ignored. If you want to use the other UV set for other things, then you have, when you import it, you have to check this thing here, which is using UV tile workflows on when you import. But that's for creating something called UDIMs, but that's for VFX stuff. This is not for this. So what you have to do is create a UV 0, the one you're going to be painting always on UV 0, because that's the convention of substance painter, and then or designer. And then on UV 1 you create your tileable one, okay, with the texture set that we talked about, okay, which is setting your tensile density, okay, which is in transform. I got it here, which is this is my tensile density. Okay, we talked about this many times. There are tutorials on this and all that. Okay, does everybody understand this?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. So we have this, okay, and now that we established that we need UV 0, UV 1, then we can tell them, hey, which UV do you want to use? You say, okay, let's use one that is UV. So we can actually in here put an actual switch. Yeah, okay. So I can tell switch, hey, switch between these two. And all we have to do is create a switch with this similar here. Okay. And we're gonna tell them here. Tab. We're gonna call it switch. Pay attention to this guy, very important. Switch static switch parameter. And it says, how are we gonna name this guy? We're gonna call how are we gonna call it? Use oops, sorry. Use, how do you call it? Use, no, let's call this switch UV set, And you can put a comment here. You can say 0 equals substance painter. 1 equals tileable. So you can have a little bit of a legend there. Said, oh, okay, so the UV1 is for substance painter, and the UV0 is for substance painter, and the UV1 is for tileable. And you say, okay, I'm gonna take this guy. Maybe I'm gonna put him in the same group as the texture input, and then I'm gonna give him 0, so it goes all the way to the top as well, or at least try to be in the top. Again, when this is true, it means that yes, you want to switch to the UV1, okay, which is the tileable. When it's false, when it's untick here, when it's unticking the thing, say, oh, okay, just use the actual coordinate 0, which is, that's it, we're not going to use anything else. So, and then we connect it here. Okay, okay, let's have a look. And now I'm going to take this and I'm just going to apply. Okay, and then let's see what happened here. The moment it's compiling, and did it crash? Did it give me an error? Oh no, it's just what's compiling. But at the moment, we know that this sphere is just a field thing, so there is no 2 UV sets. So let's find something that actually has 2 UV sets. And this is another trick. If you want to check something that has 2 UV sets, what we can do is we can take this guy, which I know it has 2 UV sets. But let's take this guy here. I'm going to double click here. I'm going to actually, you have to do, you take this guy here, click in this, so you can select them, and then you go into the MI, and then if you click this button with that selected, it says set the preview mesh based on the current content browser selected. You click here, look, and the guy is selected here. So we know that this guy has 2 UV sets. Look at the UV0. You see the amount of how blurry it looks? Because we know by default, right, UV0 is this. So it's 0 to 1. And we know that this is UV0 because by default this is unchecked, which is false, which means that it's taking whatever is coming from false, which is UV0. So now we know that this guy has another UV, which is the tileable one. Okay. So now what happened when I tell this guy, hey, I don't want to use UV0, I want to use UV1. You click here. And now that's true. I'm thinking it's true. Look, now we have more detail because now we're using the tileable one, which is UV1. And here you say, ah man, I like it, but it's not enough detail. No problem. Let's tile this stuff. Go here and say tile this to times 3. There you go. Look at that. Look at the amount of detail you obtain between nothing really. But if you just actually create your material from the beginning, that's what you get. Now this is all awesome and stuff, right? And it looks good, but we haven't got really UVs in here. Normal map, look at this. This normal map here is just, there is no normal map. The normal map we bring in here is a normal map for this. But he doesn't understand that there is actually a normal map happening in here. Because this stuff has an actual high res and low res. It's just it's baked, but we haven't used it. So how can we use it? So we can use it by doing the thing that I just showed you, which is actually doing the UV. Okay, so by convention again, we know that the stuff that is material tileable is in UV1. You see, UV1 is true at the moment. It's true because it's ticked. At the moment we tick this guy, it pipes whatever is true. At the moment we untick it, it pipes whatever is false. Okay. If you got more UV set, you have to create more switches. But I don't recommend it. Does everybody understand the concept of what I'm just saying? Or are you still sleeping, guys?
And I understand it just fine. Yeah.
I understand it. I just have a question.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I don't exactly remember how do we get UV sets on, like different UV sets on the models. It's in Maya, right? You can create a new UV set in Maya and just save it there.
Yeah, what you can do is you can do this. You select the geometry, right?
It's like how we create light maps for models.
Yeah, exactly. The same principle. So what I normally do, I take the second the 0 to 1 UV, and I convert them into the actual UV for light mask. Yeah, I'll show you in a second that as well. So here, for example, this guy here, you said, okay, I want to take this guy and convert it, or I take this and I create an extra UV set from this. With this one selected, right? You said, go here, create, copy UV set into a new UV set. Once you click in there, you have an extra UV set. Look.
Okay, cool.
That's
And you can just
it.
make as many as you want. And when you export, it all comes?
They will all come, yeah, automatically. Yeah.
Okay.
So exactly, so that's what you do. So when you import them as well here into Unreal, if you want to reuse some of those for line mask, what you can do is here, select A. I want, go into this section, it says, I want to generate my own line mask, and I said, take whatever UV map comes from 0 and pump it into the second one, and apply changes, and then you copy the stuff from here and then create a brand new one. And this is one for the line mask. I never create line mask UVs dedicated for that. I just use one of them and then I just rearrange them in here, and that's it. Okay. Okay, so you
Cool.
can see now. Yeah, you can see now here there's plenty of detail here. Okay. So the tile material is nice. So again, if we take this and look at this is even worse, because the point is that because this stuff was inside here, I said, look at this, look at the blurriness between this and this, even using tile number 1. Because I said, I don't need detail in this stuff here because nobody's gonna see this. So instead of me using all this stuff for texturing, I scaled it like tiny, like 5-6 pixels, and I put it in a corner, and that's it. Because nobody's gonna see that. So I will have more room to put more detail where I need it. Okay? And the reason I need to keep this is because it is part of the actual thing inside here. You can see there is something in there. Yeah, or you were saying something? Somebody say something?
Yeah, Louis. I'm sorry. I might just be being a bit dumb. You might have just gone over this, but so like so that's how to like change between two UV sets. But how
That's
would you
right.
do it? So, yes. So how would you do it? So like if you wanted to overlap the two UV sets, so you would you would have the tileable material as well as like a normal map you baked in Substance Painter. Is that
That is the next
possible?
step. That is the next step.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all right. No, it's all right. It's a very good
Yeah.
question because this is exactly what we're doing. We're creating this system so we can actually now add an extra UV here that we're gonna create, and that's the next step. Okay. And again,
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
yeah, and again, we're gonna go and say, okay, how do we do this? How can we actually sort this out? Okay, fine. For that, we need to create an extra entry here or an extra normal map. Okay, and then this is what we're gonna do. Now I'm gonna take Spirit. Shall I just copy and paste it? I suppose. Yeah, copy and paste it so I can keep the same connection. And then this guy we're gonna call him different. We're gonna call it detail. Whoops, what did I do? Okay, here press F2 to rename. F2 to rename. It's a bit slow today. Sorry guys. I've got like 50 things open sometimes. So here I'm gonna call this guy detail normal. Okay? Detail normal. And the detail normal here, this is interesting guys because detail normal, right, is gonna be piped into, I know that detail, we know tileable is gonna go here, right? Everybody got that. Now detail normal is gonna go here, right? Because that's the one we're gonna bake from Substance Paint, correct? This guy, I don't have to tile it. I cannot tile it. The moment I put something to tile here, I break that because this is tileable. This is not. So what I have to do is, I know that this guy definitely needs to be on vector coordinate 0. So what I can do is, I can do this. I can take coordinate 0 and then automatically connect it here. Because I don't need any of this stuff because I cannot switch, I cannot tile, I cannot offset, and I cannot rotate. Because if I do all that, I'll break this UV, which is the one that comes from something painted. Okay? So I got that now. Okay? So I got the ability to put this, and now let's put it in the texture input, and then we keep it the same naming thing here, so whatever 3, it doesn't matter. Now here we can actually put the same system in here. So I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this guy, put this guy here. Shift. Oh, I'm so bad when it comes to Unreal UI. I'm so bad at that. I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste it. You see, now I have the ability to do the same. I'm gonna actually create strength in here, and now this guy is gonna call not normal detail but detail normal strength. Okay, and it's gonna be 0. It's gonna be normal tweaks in the same section. And now, how now we blend these two dudes? Now we have to blend them, right? There is one node to blend that. Okay. Now, if you don't want to use the detail normal, okay, we have to blend it. But let's say that we're gonna keep the materials open as possible. That we're not always gonna have to use a detail normal. Not always. Okay. We can just keep it without it, just as it is. And then if we want, oh, actually, I'm gonna add the detail normal. Why not? Then we will have the ability to say, hey, do you want to use a detail normal? And again, we just create another switch. And we do this. We do this. Right click, and we create a switch. Static switch parameter. And we're gonna call this guy use detail. Well, I cannot type. Sorry guys. So use detail normal. And then we can put here as well. It is in UV0, just in case if somebody know. Oh, okay, it is in UV0, so we know. Okay. Just to make it a little bit clear now, we can say that. Okay. Okay. Want to use it? Yes. So we say true. When we want to use it, when we tick the thing, this is gonna be 5. When we don't tick the thing, then what happens? If we don't want to use anything, we can just say, hey, just use this guy again, but it's still at the same time, because this, if we put this one, which is just nothing, we will mess up the logic, because even when we put a detail normal, we will always pump it anyway. So what we have to do is put something, a constant here. So what we put here, if we put a constant, we press 3, click. And the constant in Unreal, when something is not using anything, is 0, 0, 1. 0, 0, 1 means no detail, only 100% blue. And that means like don't touch the normals. So if this is unchecked, it means that we are still not gonna do anything. We're still gonna keep this guy as it is. And then we're gonna blend. I'm gonna walk through the blend. So there is one node called blend angle correct and normal. So blend angle correct and normals. Okay. This is the base normal. This is the additional normal. So we take this guy. Okay. We take this guy, and then we connect this one in here. Okay. So this is how it works. We always gonna have this. Okay. This guy is always gonna pump base. Okay. You go a switch here, and you're gonna tick. Say, hey, do you want to use detail normal? Yes. Okay. We take the new detail normal. We have the ability to change the strength just in case. We pipe it through, and then it will blend with whatever is time. And boom, output my normal here. Use detail normal is unchecked, false, fine. Take this, if we take this guy and blend it with this guy doesn't get touched. It's pretty much nothing. I'm adding nothing. 0, 0, and red and green, and 1 in blue. So this guy is already 1 in blue, so nothing's gonna happen. The logic inside here is something that you see there's some crazy stuff happening. You're masking a pen, multiply a pen, dot product, multiply, subtract, there you go. So I'm not gonna go through that. If you wanna learn about that, just look at it. Okay. So again, but the beauty about this guy is when you have this guy unchecked, all this guy is going to disappear from the UI, and once you check it, it will appear, and then you will have the ability to insert it. So let's see if we didn't have an error, and then it compiles properly. If we don't have an error here, it means that the logic is solid. We go back in here, it's compiling. And compiling, by the way, for those who know program, don't know anything about program, compiling what it is putting all the instructions that we did, all the things that we did here, and make sure that everything is properly connected, and then it produces the final shape. So you're seeing that all okay. Now we have this. Now keep an eye on this section here, because I do have a big thing for this. So now look at this. Use normal detail. We forgot to put it in the actual normal. So what we're gonna put this guy, let's go back in here. And then we're going to put the switch. I know that this switch is in the right place, and this needs to be in the right place. So where we're going to put it? We're going to put it into, I would say, texture inputs. What was the last texture input number that we had? I think that was normal, number 3. So we keep this guy number 4. And I think we give this guy, let's keep it number 3. So we apply again, see if we didn't have any errors. If nothing appears here with an error, everything is fine. And here, compiles. Now we have this guy, now we have this tick here. Look, we still call it 3, but where is this guy? He's not on because at the moment, this thing is by default unchecked, which means it's false, and all it's doing is piping this guy through, doing nothing. Okay? So, as soon as we tick this guy, hey, I want to actually use detail number. Use the UV0. Okay, cool. But click here, and you see this guy pops up, the detail number. If you want to be low, you can just change the number. And then say, okay, I'm going to add this. Now, keep an eye on this. Look how horrible these lines are. Okay, they are horrible because the normal map only understands about the title, which is the moment 3. Let's put it to 5, so you can get even more detail. You can see more detail, no problem. And now let's look at these lines here. Harsh, horrible lines, and it's happening all throughout. Okay. Now let's see this. Let's keep an eye on this here. This section here. Do that. I think this is better. You can see that transition here, nothing. Okay, let's go and find this guy. I got it. So I'm gonna go here and find it, which is somewhere here. Is this dude? No, it's not that dude. It's this dude. That's the one that I actually baked inside. Yeah, right click, copy, and now have a look at this. If everything is okay, hopefully it's okay. It should be fine. Okay, paste. Wow, look at that. Now you can go the nice smooth edges, because those smooth edges now are the one that you bake in something things. And now let's do it. Undo this. You see, everything is. It looks horrible. Look at this harsh line. Let's paste it again. Now everything looks more. And if you have things like details that you put like panels and stuff like that, those panels will start being here, those lines, because you bake them in something painted. Okay? Does that make sense, guys? Or do you want me to repeat anything? Connor, does that make sense? You asked me this question in particular.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Cheers, Louis.
Yeah. Okay. So, and that's cool, right? But now let's see if we have the ability now to actually get the ambient occlusion as well. Why not? Right? Let's do the ambient occlusion. Why not? Let's do this. So we take this guy. Now let's go back to the master. So we already, I think today is gonna be just class of this guy, and then we're gonna have to see what well, that might go. So I think we're gonna have to be. So look, we created the section for detail. So let's add this guy as well to. I'll add this right here. So we have it there, and now I'll go here another section, which is detail normal, right? So we go here, select this guy, press C, and we're gonna call this detail normal. Okay. Again, here we had the ability to add an extra texture, but I believe if I add an extra texture, there is a limit in terms of texture that you can put here, guys. You see, texture sample, you go a maximum of 16. At the moment, we got 5, which is still okay. Okay, just to let you know, guys. So you cannot have more than 16. If you have more than 16, you have to change something in here to make it work, but then it slow down things, and it's good for what's it called, demo work, and not for game stuff, because it gets really slow. So you have to be quite efficient with this. Okay, so at the moment, I go RGB, alpha, RMO. My ambient occlusion here is the ambient occlusion that comes from the tileable, not the ambient occlusion I bake for this model as it is. The one that I will bake from this model, it will darken these bits here. It will darken this section here. It will darken all this perhaps, and it will darken this corner. So how do we add this? The simplest way is to do the same thing we did with the texture, but with an extra thing here. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an extra texture. Now, if you're working on your stuff and you say, well, actually, I like this model, but this system, but I just don't want to add an extra texture. Fine. When you bake stuff out, sorry, in Unreal, sorry, in Substance Painter, put the ambient occlusion here if you want to. Okay. That's a bit more efficient because you will make use of the channel, which normally is not used. But because the problem is that when you bring this stuff here with, and it will turn into normal, it might change your ambient occlusion because it's being read and colors differently. Or you can use you can use the alpha of here. This alpha is available. Okay, so you can put an extra. No, but this is 18. No, sorry, no, my bad. No, that doesn't work. Sorry. So I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create an extra thing here, and for that I'm gonna create that would normally be input into this. Okay, so I'm gonna take it from RMO. I'm gonna copy this. I'm gonna paste it here. Okay. And this I'm gonna keep it like this, RMO. I'm gonna call this I got something, I think I got something here as well. I'm gonna call this guy detail AO. It's a bit an overkill, okay? Because it's gonna be 3 channels. If you want, you can do something like I did here. I got something else, the masking system with mask 2 material. But then I have to create an extra layer here with 4 more texture before, and then I have to do a layer. But and that's what I did in all these materials, basically more complicated. It's just a lot of nodes. So I'm gonna keep this for now so you can actually see it. Okay. So I might not implement this. I'm just gonna put it here directly so you can actually see it. So what you can do is you can take, let's say I'm gonna keep it with this, but then this doesn't work. This breaks the actual methodology of making a master material because it would be wasting 3 channels. So what I'm going to do is for you to come out yourself, guys. You need to come out with a solution for it. Where do you want to put that stuff? It's up to you. But pretty much the principle is this. So what I'm going to do now is temporarily, so I can show you how it works. I'm going to take this texture, okay, which is this texture here is the one with all the masking that I did, but at the same time in the alpha channel, I know that I have my ambient occlusion, so I'm going to use this. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy, okay, with this one selected, then I'm going to go here, just temporarily. I'm going to copy here, and I'm going to press tab, texture, sample. Okay, and with that selected, automatically he assigns it here automatically. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to blend the ambient occlusion of this guy with the ambient occlusion of this guy. And this one you can do it with a multiply if you want, but the easiest way is to put one node called the minimum, because the minimum is interesting because the minimum, what it does, it takes 2 numbers and it gives you the minimum. And if you have something here that is dark, if you got something here that is darker, which is the minimum, which is towards 0, then it will always come out the minimum. So what you do, you take this, okay, you take the alpha from this, so you can see it, and now Connect this to the ambient occlusion. Okay. Now let's put here a tweaking thing here. This is dodgy because this is not an actual parameter, but we'll just put it here. So I'm going to put here is a multiply. I'll press M here. I'm going to multiply this by a dodgy parameter that I'm going to just create. So you can see it's going to keep it like that, and I'm going to keep it with 1. Okay, so it's 1. Then I'm just going to get this in here, and I don't want to rename it. So I'm going to apply it, and you start seeing this. At the moment it's 1, which means it's passing through and it's blending between the two. So now here, when you compile, you start seeing this bit getting darker. Or not. I think it should be here. Let's have a look. So parameter 1. Let's see what happens if I multiply. No, am I doing something wrong? Stupid. Okay, something wrong. I took the alpha from here and then multiply it by this parameter, and then I gave you the name. Give it the name. Yeah, I give it. I don't know. Minimum of those two. So this. Okay. So let's put a multiply just to see. Let's put a blend multiply and see what happens. You know the blend multiply that you find in Photoshop is here as well. I believe somewhere in there. I thought it was here. Screen ping overlay, linear touch, lighting, darken, I suppose. Let's do a bit multiply. So let's put this in here. Okay. Why does it have a meaning? The other occlusion is coming out from the blue channel, which is nothing. Okay, let's compile and see if it works. Okay. Come on, don't let me down, man. The moment is 1, which means it's passing it through, multiplying the stuff. Okay. Oh, did I have to put here the UV set as well to. Yeah, I think. Oh, okay. I think it has to be connected as well. UV0 here. So I know I'm using UV0. And we are assuming it's UV1. Let's try to do that. Apply that. Let's go in here and see if it works. Just to make sure. Maybe that was the issue. Perhaps. I don't know. Okay. So let's have a look at this. I'm gonna multiply. This is that's more. Okay. 0. Oh, I connect because I connected it. No. Oh, that's okay. It is in the alpha. Yeah, it's in the alpha. It's here. This is the ambient occlusion. Huh. Let's have a look. So, once again, how do we have it now? Yeah. And I'll start reviewing this now. Yeah, that's fine. If I put this guy to 0, it gives me 0. There you go. It goes here. Then I'm going to multiply by this ambient occlusion. Reviewing this is there. Let's see if I put this one to 0. It gives me 0. Okay. I think I'm going to do something different. And then I got this in here. then I take this, and then I'm gonna push it. Mate, here it makes sense. If I take this to 4, see it brighter. Do I see the multiplication? It's not happening. It's doing the multiplication. Yeah, multiplication of these two. Ah, because obviously there's nothing connected here. Obviously, it's just the actual. Let's have a look at the multiplication. Should be solid. Okay, that's interesting. I'm just thinking the UVs, RGB, let's see this one. Okay, okay, let me have a look at something here, guys, before we move on, because I did implement it. I got it here. It's very subtle, but let me find the original material it is. You can see the material like so this one's here. You can get material blend layer 1 and 2. This one goes in there. This one is touching. No, it's not touching. Inclusion. This is the sample. Set texture sample layer. Normal RMO. And RMO here it does an inclusion in the blue. And then here texture tune. And the inclusion is not touched here yet. See how easy you can get a lot of these things. So we got that, and then here I blend between the two materials. Okay, so here we have alpha. Okay, macro amino occlusion. Okay, this is the amino occlusion intensity, and then this is different. Yeah, so I did something different here. You can see here. Yeah, I did it. Look, min. Look, there you go. It does work. Amino occlusion and the amino occlusion. Oh, no, actually, not between the two, but so I think. Okay. So do the amino occlusion, and then get the minimum between the amino occlusion and the scalar that comes from the. Oh, this is stuff. Good. Yeah. Okay, let's do something. I'm gonna connect this to here. Okay, and then I know what I so I did this, and then here I put a contrast node. To contrast, and then the alpha channel for this. So now let's do the okay, let me fix this, guys, and I will so go alpha. Yeah, alpha. I take this, and then this goes into this. I think contrast 0 default value equals to 0. And try this. Okay, so let's see if it works. Yeah, it doesn't want to work. That's working, man. I don't know why it doesn't want to work now. I'm doing something stupid. I think it's the ambient occlusion is part of the system when it's in the dark. I think the bright doesn't come out. Believe me, guys, this works. I don't know why it doesn't work. It's something silly. Anyway, I think the ambient occlusion you can use efficiently if you have an extra set of textures that you can actually use for blending two materials. Because at the moment this is only one material and it works with the normal, but for some reason it doesn't want to work. This always gives me a minimum. So the minimum between these two would be the minimum that I get from this. One second, let me do something I click on mask. Mask this one. So what I'm gonna take all this guy here, and I'm just gonna take the alpha. I'm only taking the alpha, and it doesn't want to happen here. Let's see, this is the one that's causing this issue. This one, this one. So, no, it doesn't want to happen. Something, I'm doing something wrong, guys. Sorry. At least is the normal map. I'll fix this for hopefully next week and see what was the issue. But has anybody seen something that I'm not seeing? Maybe I can make things stupid.
No, it seems to look correct. It's just that
Yeah, it seems to
oh,
make
I
sense.
can't. Yeah, it seems to make sense, but I just don't understand why is it not working.
That's right. Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, I already implemented it in here in the material. And what it is just a cheap contrast. So what it is, just you can see here, cheap contrast, and then goes into the MO, and then here, what it does is just give me the minimums of two. The ambient occlusion, I don't think it will give me the ambient occlusion in B. Let's see, maybe that is possible. Maybe this needs to go in B. Let's see if it makes any sense. I'm not sure. And this one in A. Let's give it one more try. That's the only thing that is different here from what we just did. You see here that the actual incoming ambient occlusion is on B. Yeah, so let's see. Don't know it does not, because I think with that I should start seeing these bits here getting darker. Yeah, I don't know why it doesn't work. It just doesn't do anything. Maybe the ambient occlusion is based on lighting, perhaps. Yeah, I think that's what it is. The only explanation. Did you see, for example, here in this material here, if I open this and I tweak the ambient occlusion intensity, which is in my other screen, start seeing a little bit of darkening coming here. You can see the same system we just created. Let me have a look at the ambient occlusion there. So if I let me see. You can see here that there is an ambient occlusion happening.
Yeah.
I think it's related to the lighting. I think it's, you see that how it happens here and more here. I believe there's a look. You see it happens more where it's shadow, and you can see here, look, it is happening.
Yeah, so there is an AO.
Yeah, but I just don't know why it doesn't want to. I mean, the same logic that I just applied there, I did it for this one. So that should technically work. I mean, this should technically work unless I'm not mixing things correctly. But what I'm doing is I'm mixing two elements and then just pumping them into normal. But I don't know. I don't know. I think it's this one would break the attributes, and because we're doing material small panels. And here there is a zero cheap contrast, and then the AIO and the materials coming from here, and then they blend together. All these pass through exactly the same, and then this one is the one that actually gets blended. And I've done that many times in all the software. I don't have to, unless here because the materials attributes are blended. I don't know. I don't know if I mean, guys, this works. Believe me, it works, and it does blend. When you blend two things, that's how you blend it. The minimum, because the minimum is going to be black, isn't it? Zero. So if you input something that is darker, then it's going to give you the actual darker bit. You see, and the brighter stuff is not going to be good because just no. Well, let's put here just to test it. I'm going to put here minimum this, and I'm going to put black just to test it. It's always going to give you black, and see if this works. And see if the materials everything is black in here. No, I think it had to do with the lighting. I think maybe because the metallic part. Let's have a look. I'm gonna kill the metallic. 1 second. Bear with me, guys. I'm gonna kill the metallic. Maybe it's part of the shader how it is. No, doesn't work. I'll see what I can do about that next week, guys. Okay? I think this will be a very interesting. Let me reconnect the as it was. Let's keep this feature here on standby at the moment, but I'm going to bypass it by just going directly to the manipulation here. Okay, but at least in the normal map works and it makes a big difference, guys. Okay, so you can see here that the quality it does improve when it comes to those edges and stuff. And I think that again, if you manage to have some sort of things detail here, if you paint in photo in something painted, they will come out in the second release set in detail on them, and then you will be able to get that detail in there. You see here. So I don't know why it doesn't want to work. I think let me see. Can you change the lighting here? I don't know. Let's try something just before we go, guys. I'm gonna try something here. I think I'm gonna keep this as it was, okay? And then I'm gonna put. Let's try some diameter occlusion. I'm gonna put it. Once it's supposed to be P. Just one thing before we go, and then we're just gonna connect this again the way it was, okay? I'm gonna put this contrast back to 0 as it was, and I think I'm just gonna pull out the output here. And then this one to 0 as it is. So this is as it was, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually create a material and assign it inside the actual scene and see if it works. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this thing, okay, this guy. I'm going to find them here, and then I'm just gonna make a copy and drop it here, okay? And see if that makes any difference. So this will work. Okay. I'm just gonna do this here. I'm just gonna put a little bit of some areas, there's some areas not. Let's see what happens. Yeah. So I'm gonna go and select this guy. So slow my computer. So I'm gonna select this guy in 10,000. This one. It's gonna assign it to this one here. Okay. So I assign it to this one here. Let's see if this thing works. Okay. So I'm gonna open this and I wanna put it on screen so you can actually see it. This. So I'm gonna go and tweak the parameter for the ambient occlusion and see if it works. Okay? Let's keep an eye on some things we do. See, this should get darker here. Okay. So let's have a look. There is something happening here. Or is me seeing things that are not. But yeah, it does work. There's something happening here. Yeah, it doesn't work in here. And the thing that we do here in the viewport, yes, we actually see here. Let's do it here on the side. You can see that. Look. It works. Look. So the contrast allows you to change this. Okay. Now let's put a switch so we can actually see how it works. So I'm gonna put it back to 0, the way it was. It's blending now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to, before we finish here, I'm going to put a delete this and delete that. I don't need this. I don't need this. Now I'm going to put a switch here again. One switch. So press tab. I'm gonna close some stuff like this is clean. I think it's the recording and this is taking a store resources. I think it's not in place. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a switch here again, static switch parameter. And again, when it's true, it's gonna be blending. When it's false, it's just gonna pull it out as it was, okay? And then here, I'm gonna connect it to the actual ambient occlusion, okay? And here you can see that because the moment is false, then it's pretty much piping the thing directly from here, the ambient occlusion. I'm not gonna rename it, put in the desired thing, probably gonna do that for next week. And then it's compiling on the screen, so I can show here in the screen what it looks like. It's compiling, and then we can do the switch thing and see if it works. Okay. So now is at the moment is unchecked, which means that is false, which means it's coming through as it is. So let's have a look if we put a switch and see if it makes any difference. Compiling. See, it does. Look. You can see this section here that was too bright. Now it's not, because it has an ambient occlusion. Look. Oh, thank God it worked. Okay. I'm not gonna end up. So here, though, you can see, for example, here I think this dark is produced by that. So this is without, and then here, where you can see this stuff here is dark because it's an ambient occlusion baked from subtle painting. So these things as well make the whole unit look more settled and cohesive with each other. So if you don't do that, look, it just looks bright, and then you say, why the thing is so bright in there where there is no light you be reaching? And then you put your own thing, and then voila, it gives you the thing. It gives you a nice ambient occlusion automatically. The thing is, these are out. If I move it to a different part, let's rotate this so you can just the lighting there. You can see here that that is with, that's without, as width, and then we can tweak it a little bit more. This is with more contrast here. This is
So Louis, it shows up in the viewport, but just not in the like viewer bit, basically.
so yeah, in this viewer thing here, in the one that we're doing for testing, here it doesn't work.
Oh, I see.
Because
Yeah,
this stuff here is just a temporary thing. I suppose there is something here that is disabled, but in the actual scene it works, and this is the way it should look.
yeah, cool.
Okay. So you can see now that with this sort of blueprint or template that we created, we can actually have something cool. So here we can turn this into a parameter. We can turn this into an actual parameter, name it, and we can take this into an anything for in the right area. Okay. So I think that's it, guys. It's up to you. You want to leave it like that. If you want, you can have extra things in this channel that you paint in substance or whatever, and then you can this one can see like scratches. This one can be, I don't know, grime or something, as it is, and then you can just blend it. For example, if I take one of these that I know is grime, I just take this and I just multiply it by the color and make it darker. Or I can multiply by the roughness and then give a little roughness. You see? So this I will leave it to you guys. So you have something, a template you can actually use that for your materials. This is what I expect you guys to have your materials, because this will make a big difference when it comes to seeing your materials looking good or just. I want you to stay away from just blocking these three things in one. That's it, because you don't have any control. Okay. But you can see now that that's how I put this together here. So you can see that there's plenty of detail. You saw the ability that now we have to actually have the ability to have plenty of detail in here. And if you think that's not enough, then you can just always come back to the title section and then give it another title, 8. You can see that I guess there's a point that I start getting a little bit repetitive, because I kept the, you can see that it's getting repetitive. Because, you can see it. Okay, and that's because I'm using the extra 30-20. You start seeing the repetition drastically. You see that's, you can see the repetition. Or even at 20, 20 is too much. The 10, sort of hold. And here you can see there's plenty of details. As soon as you can see, there's so much detail in there. And here, this is not very good. If you go into here, you will see this way more detail. You can see, for example, this is styled at, I think it's at 3 or 4. And you zoom in, look at it. There's plenty of detail. That's because it's using that technique. And here I'm blending the rust. So the next step for this, what I'm going to do before we wrap this up, is that I'm going to take the high resolution of the whole tank. I'm going to take it into ZBrush, and I'm going to create one little strip where all the connections are, like for example here and here, and then I'm going to create some lines that go like here and here and here, like so. I'm going to do that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to extract those, separate mesh them, bring it into Maya, UV them, and put them in a little what's it called? I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna create a welding decal, pretty much, and that welding decal is going to affect roughness. And it's going to affect normal. So we'll see like it's all welded from there. Very simple. And I'm gonna use it. With using it, I'm going to actually reuse some of the stuff that I have over here, but I can go into Substance Designer, and then I'm going to take this stuff in here, for example, and I'm going to plug in the side here. I'm going to put one here, one there, and another there, and that's it. I don't have to use anything else. And then I don't have to use any texture. I can use it because I've got these strips, and then I just put the UVs all around, move them around, and then I will create this nice welding seam that goes all around, because I don't want to keep it like this. it looks too clean. Right? This is not right. So if you put that welding thing with the rust, when it blends with the rust and the roughness and the actual color and stuff, it will look like somebody actually went and welded this thing. And then I'm gonna create as well here because this is a whole panel, so I can put a clear line that goes around there, one that goes there, and another one that goes here, and one on the edges if I want to here, for example. So I know that the fan is welded, and this is very simple to do this in what is it called in ZBrush. You bring the high res, then you mask by features, then you just convert that into a polygroup, delete the old stuff, save mesh, bring it to Maya, UV it, done. Okay. So, any questions about the class today, guys? I think I gave you plenty of food for thought for you guys to actually start implementing these kind of workflows into your project, because this will make it look very interesting when it comes to detail. And you can see I just showing to you that the amount of detail you can get here is ridiculous, and then you still will be able to hold your detail in here. You can see that the moment is not much because it's only the bevel of the edge. You can see that once you take it out, it just looks horrible. This line there, stuff there. You put it back in, and you start seeing a little bit more roundness, especially this fourth sort of section here. Okay, and you see that some really nice detail here. This is horrible. This is just so doesn't make sense. You see, it's just there's no detail in there. As soon as you put a normal map, and yeah, I start recognizing how things are going to be supposed to be. My bad. I think I should have made this with a really extra subdivision. This is too forced. I made a mistake. I said, oh man, I'll change whatever. But I think that definitely could have been improved. Okay. And here I'm gonna say this. And now I am ready for any question, guys. If you want, then we can wrap this up. I think I'll go another hour or so, so if you can, if whoever wants to stay over, and I'll have a look at your work. If not, you always have the extra session you have with Matt on Monday. Monday it is, right? Monday, Tuesday, I can't remember. And
It's Monday. It's Monday.
yeah, and then I'll see you as well next week, guys. And if you got any question, anything in particular about this, anything you need to find out, you need to be covered.
That was really useful. Cheers, Louis.
No problem.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure. No problem. Okay, so I'm gonna
It's
stop
gonna
the
take a
recording.
while to yeah. It's gonna
Say
take a
that.
while to understand how it works, but
Mm.
it will be useful. Yeah,
Well,
with all these additional controls. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's the way for you to go when it comes to materials, guys, because you're in year 3 now and you want to produce things that are they're looking up to standard, and you need to think about different methodologies, because just putting the textures connected directly to it works, but it just don't have the flexibility and the efficiency to create variation very, very good. So this is the way to go. Okay. So I'm hoping to see this implemented in your project. So I don't know, guys, how to do it because I've never done it. Have you ever shared materials in Unreal? How to upload and put them in the canvas? I'll put it in the canvas easy, but the file that you need to export, do you know, guys, by any chance? So I can upload this for you guys. I suppose asset actions, export. Let's see if it works. It's a text, Unreal object text.
I've never done that.
Let me see why it exports, and then I'm gonna put it here. I'm gonna share with you guys, and I want you to open it here quickly on your computer to see if it works. Okay, so you can have the actual file. Let's put it in the. We're gonna put this in the desktop. Let's see what export. Is export as what's it called? Unreal script thing, and it should work. Now it creates some juju thing that doesn't make any difference. Yeah. Okay, let me maybe I can. Okay, let's have a look. Maybe I can right click and not export, but migrate perhaps.
Migrate only moves it to another project because I'm actually doing a search on how this can be done, but seems that the migrate is only within
Copy
the
reference
project.
path, no. Copy file path, reference viewer, no.
Hmm.
Passive action, so export doesn't work. Migrate, fuck me no. No, that's too much. No, I messed that up. So I don't know. I remember that David, when you found your shader, it was Texas.
Yeah, it was like it was like the code you just pasted.
Yeah, something. Yes, I know there is a way to do that, and I think that's the way to do it. You see, I think there's over here. There's anything you can. Maybe save as. Well, this material is supposed to be in here. Let's notify. I want to just put it in the string here so you can see it, guys. So you can have it, okay? You might have to create your own texture connection, but I just want to see if it works. Okay, what I was doing. Okay, I have to go. I'm going to. We're gonna go into the project. Shape of water. Let me save everything to make sure that everything is saved. Okay. So here I'm gonna. I think it's in here. It's in content. I think it is. Materials. Master materials. You see, so you asked it here. Look, that's the one. So asset copy. Guessing that's the one. So I'm gonna copy this and I'm just gonna paste it in the string. I'm gonna put in feedback. No, it doesn't want to do it. Okay, I have to go and drag and drop it here. Well, actually, I only gave you the instant. That's the master actually. Yeah. I uploaded it, guys. Just download and see if you can put it, migrate it or import it in your project. See if it works. Okay, let me know how it goes with that. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Okay. So. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna stop the recording.